Good morning, Jay, and 910, November 9, Pastor Mike Lima.
Hi, RTF. Well, very fine. We have N9 OML Howard in the Chicago area and 5 RTF Chip in the New Orleans area. And we have an N8 JJO who's here on the net anyway, I mean here on the coordinate array. Are there any other stations that would like to do an early check-in for a net? If so, this is the Medical Image Radio Council DVNet. And today we're going to be talking about some charitable outreaches for Marco Medicare. Go ahead and make your call now for early check-ins, BA4. All right, well, we'll be starting in a minute. I've got 6 meters up and running. It's been an interesting few days here. It was the third time in the last one time over the last 2 years. When I worked Japan last night on 6 meter FTA. I only worked one. I was copied 2 or 3 times in Japan, and I've been chasing a station in Fiji. People were hearing them all around our area, but he wasn't hearing me. So that's something to try, something interesting. It's mentioned in the ether. That's one of the Marco and 6 meter FTH that's keeping me interested here. Let me let it drop one. We'll start from that. Well, this is AA4FL for the Marco Digital Voice Net. It's held here on the QuadNet Array weekly at 1500 UTC in locally now 11 o'clock Eastern time, by the way. And the net is primarily composed of members, but all guests are welcome to attend and participate. We have different discussion threads. And in recent years, it's been Bill 19 that predominantly carried the threads, although I'd like to start introducing others, and I think it would be an ideal place to discuss possible Medicare projects and other ways that we can facilitate amateur radio since we're a DV and we're looking for new people, new technology. So anyway, drop one. This is a directed net. I'll be a net control today out of Hawthorne, Florida, AA4FL, personally using a USB stick, a DV stick, an AMI stick, and internet here is pretty slow. I don't have a local repeater of access here for the coordinate array. I'm coming in through the D-Star side of the coordinate. The net is again open to everyone. If you're not a member and want to participate, we'd love to have you in the discussion threads. If you don't want to be involved in the discussion threads, we'd still love to have you. But do let us know that you're here. It just helps us to tailor the conversation in a way that we describe things, knowing that there's not medical hands here. Another intro. Being that AA4FL here and being uh, tired today, losing my train of thought. I'm glad to be here. I told everyone that I wasn't going to be here today. We had a COVID exposure, and her grandson was here 3 days ago. His parents have all them COVID positive, so we're testing negative. We've been boosted, but we're sort of sequestered here where we're supposed to be out of town for a wedding. So we get to play with 6 meter DX instead of going to a wedding. Getting back to the net, the purpose of the net is to facilitate discussion amongst Merco members and friends. And we do have many friends that are out in the healthcare field, so feel shy about checking in. It is a directed net, so since it's a directed net, it involves many different modalities, including USB sticks and repeaters and a quad-net array. Everything's a big collection of transcoded repeaters and other venues. So the quad-net array does need time to sync all the technologies. So please don't tailgate, which you should never do anyway. Pause a moment or two before you speak, and also after you camp, also pause to make sure that everything's in harmony and sync. If there are any stations here that have emergency traffic for the night, go ahead and make your call now to AA4 FL Net Control. So now emergency traffic grid. What about stations that have limited time? They'd like to check in but may not be able to stay through if you're on a repeater mobile where you may lose the connection. Go ahead and let us know. Call us now so we can give you priority around the discussion. AA4 waiting for your call. Well done here. Not heard. Where we have for check-ins, we have VU3WTJ with us from India. Good morning, Susanto, or good afternoon, excuse me, Susanto. Great morning greetings from Florida. WW9F, Jeff in the Chicago area. PY2BBQ, Hilton in Brazil. N9OML, Howard in the Chicago area. NHAGO, it's off frequency here, and hopefully you'll be involved in the roundtable discussion, John. And Chip, N5RTF. So let me go ahead and just introduce the Medicare discussion. I'm not quite ready for Medicare. I'm getting close though. I can't wait. On the Medicare side, we're looking for new projects. We had an annual meeting, and the video for the annual meeting is linked through either on the website, you can find it, or linked through the ESA that was just released yesterday. So we had about a 2-hour session. Thank you for everybody that was there for the annual session by way of Zoom. It was a hybrid meeting indicative of COVID times. Quite a few individuals did not feel comfortable coming, and we had some reports last week about some spread, at least in some of the parallel smaller groups that met during that long weekend, not in our group as far as I know. So we can talk about that today. Have you let it drop one? Getting back to the Medishare discussion that we had at the end of this meeting, we've been looking for active discussion here on the quad-net array that might attract others. And when I was thinking that maybe our net would be a good vehicle for Medishare project discussion and parallel discussions related to amateur radio and the growth of amateur radio, the maintenance of amateur radio, engaging young people. So as we speak today, one of the items I'd like to talk about was potential projects and potential partnership with Indexa, the DX organization. They fund small projects and DX locations. They like to do theirs when they send the expedition to a particular area. Of course, many DX expeditions to areas where there are people, so that's not very functional in that situation. Let me let it drop one. Of course, there are very few DX expeditions planned right now. Small trips are being made, but not majors, because we're still not quite through the scourge of COVID, particularly on an international scale. But the potential for funding charitable work overseas. We should be emerging with a lot of need, of course. The question is, how do we do this? In the past, Medishare has been, the thought has been to tie medical hospital-related projects to our charitable. Or what other criteria could be developed, and should we work with partners, including perhaps those in the missionary community, which are already going to areas and doing things such as microloans. We can actually partner and do that and have an independent effort that's just parallel to what somebody's already doing, but have the synergy of further development by including multiple parties. So let me let it drop one. From my viewpoint, having the expeditions go to an area to put it on the air where people live, if the area is rare enough to visit, it's nice to visit it. But I think there should be a component of training the individuals that are there, uh, amateur radio and leaving equipment behind. If we can tie that to hospitals and do it at hospitals, that would be better because we have duality of purpose at the hospitals and be willing to let the local population have a club station there. So, again, an opportunity for synergy, and I hope we can discuss that. Wayne K4WFP may or may not be able to be with us a little later, and he's on a committee with me for Medishare and Reynolds, and we haven't had this discussion yet. So this is where I'd like to go. And again, if we can get Wayne here next week, seems like natural to open it up to an entire organization, put it on Google list, letting them know we're going to have the discussion and taking it on. So if Sir Senzo, we're going to start the list now discussion, and of course, COVID report from India would be wonderful too. But I'm sure there must be areas of India where we can do some Medishare projects. So please chime in on that. VU3WTJ, AA4FL, and the Marco Medical Image Radio Council DVNet. Go ahead, Sir Senzo.
Roger, Roger, Alpha, Alpha 4, Foxtrot Lima, this is Wheel 3, Whiskey Tango Japan returning. Thank you, Jay. And I'm coming back to the net after a long time. My QTH got changed, and that's why I'm late. Almost after 3.5 months, I'm joining the net. Yes, you were talking about the de-expeditions and making of new small low power QRP devices and all. Yes, it is possible. And in India, many people are working on making small QRP devices. And I also made one low power 20 meter transceiver that is a copy of Clopic. So we can do such kind of small projects jointly. So this is the thing. Microphone back to you, Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is Wave 3, Whiskey Tango Japan, over.
Well, Sir Sandra, thank you for the encouragement and being welcoming to these thoughts. This is AA4FL with VU3WTJ in India. So, Sir Sandra, I know at least one hand that's been involved in microloan projects where they've gone into Africa and they've loaned small amounts of money to individuals that want to start businesses. And I know areas of India that probably would be very attractive too. I don't know if they've had any inclusion in India. But at this point, it seems like we have many people in amateur radio that have talents, and perhaps Medishare. We have a web domain called hamscare.org. Maybe as the future comes on, this is an area where Medishare can be part of a solution to various problems. We're not going to be able to reinvent the wheel, and there's no reason for it. Our heritage, and this was discussed at the annual meeting if you review the video, for Medishare from the beginning was to partner with other organizations. So we have to have some mutual understanding agreements with these other organizations, and we'd have to have criterion, but amateur radio can expand worldwide, but also we have a lot of talent academically across the world. I was talking to, at least emailing, with the station in Fiji and noticed that he's a specialist in algae, in mold. So if we involve scientists also in Marco Medishare and find a way to involve amateur radio at the college level, getting worldwide involvement in some sessions that can be given by Zoom at various colleges, perhaps we'll have an additional way to grow college clubs. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Jacinda, if you have any additional comments before we move on to the next person on the list. EU3 WTJ AA4FL.
Roger, Roger, Alpha, Alpha, 4, Foxtrot, Lima, VQ, Whiskey, Tango, Japan, returning to the group. Absolutely correct, Jay. I am completely agreed with you. And right now, what I am observing, although all of you are much more senior ham than me, but I am also holding the license for last 12 years. But what I am observing today, ham community is divided into two parts. One part, they are making the things and they are earning money from that, and they don't want to share the concept with any other people. And the classic example is BITX. In your country also, I think many BITX users are there, micro BITX or BITX version 6. And other community is the home brewer. And those people are very less. I saw some of my good friends who home brew the transceivers, and they got the W land with crystal radio. That is fantastic. I got inspired from them, and I made my antenna well and everything by myself. I didn't purchase anything from shops, and my highest contact is the coast of Brazil with a 90 whiskey power. That is my highest contact till date. So I agree. Things are changing, and many people think they purchase very costly equipments. They invest lakhs of things on radio or rotator and all those things, but after some days they stop using those things. They are losing their interest because amateur radio is a technical hobby. It is a science. It grows throughout the years. So yes, I'm agreed with your comment. Microphone back to you. Alpha Alpha Golf Foxtrot Lima. This is View 3, Whiskey Tango Japan. Over.
Well, thank you, Sir Sendo. By the way, your signal, your transmissions are very clear. I was able to copy 100% of that. Thank you for the explanations. Congratulations on doing some building and assembling and getting involved in HF, and I hope you encourage your friends to as well. And thank you for the other explanations. In addition, any thoughts we have in the Indian subcontinent, if you can get some of your other medical friends or academic friends involved would be appreciative. As we go forward with the rest of our exchanges here, let's make sure we limit our transmissions to less than 2 minutes, and even less than that's desirable in case your signal drops. But if we know it's 2 minutes, repeaters will not be violated with Bravo. Plus, we'll make sure that we don't have more transmissions so lengthy that you find out that we're waiting on you to come back on if your signal drops. Let me drop one myself here. This is AA4FL in Hawthorne, Florida, Medical Amateur Radio Council, DVNet, a directed net. And at this time, before we continue on with our dialogue here, which we're having a roundabout discussion with those that have checked in, are there any other stations that have not checked in already that would like to check in? If so, go ahead and make your call. Well, before I turn it over to Jeff, WW9F, you mentioned that when I was in the Pacific, in P33 in Bunaba Island. The country of Kiribati has a series of clinics connected by radio, and theirs wasn't working at the time. They couldn't talk to Tarawa. So it would be a bad idea to make a goal where certain countries, like, for example, Kiribati, have systems of amateur radio operators that can not only operate amateur radio as a hobby and as a DX source for DXing, but also learn a little bit of technical ability because that local clinic radio, which is an HF radio, could have been maintained if someone had a little bit of theory knowledge. And that might be a type of situation in various countries to assist in building networks through a MetaShare type effort. So let me go next to WW9F. Jeff. Good morning, Jeff. Okay, I'm not hearing Jeff. I know you're online. One more time, Jeff, and then we'll come back to you. WW9F, AA4F Alpha, MetaShare, not Marco, DVNet. A4FL, WW9F. Do you copy? QSL, copy that last transmission, Jeff. Go ahead. WW9F, I copied your last transmission. Hopefully you're not transmitting now. Go ahead. Okay. Nothing heard from Jeff. Jeff, you might be having some technical problems there if you're hearing us. PY2 BBQ, Holton, go ahead.
Okay. A4FL and the group. This is Papa Yankee 2, Bravo, Bravo, Quebec, Hilton from São Paulo, Brazil. Nice to be with you again this Saturday. Hope everybody's fine, safe, and healthy. And yes, Jay, I think this weekly meeting is a great opportunity for discuss this kind of topics related to MediShare, to emergency communications and ham radio subjects, but not only medical subjects. I think it's a great point, and we are thinking of a place for you to be to next 2 years meeting here in Brazil. We are thinking about that, and perhaps we can bring some MediShare opportunities here as well. I'd like to tell you that regarding COVID-19 here in Brazil, we are seeing a very high increase in the number of new cases, and that started to include an increase of the number of hospitalizations as well, but not an increase in the number of deaths related to COVID-19. Wait one. Okay. This is PY2BBQ from São Paulo, Brazil, returning. And the numbers here are like 40,000 new cases a day, but that this time what we are seeing is a very important under notifications of those new cases, considering that um, these new cases of COVID-19 are a very light cold like infection. Most of the patients are not testing anymore. And even when they're testing, sometimes it's not being notified because the testing can be done at home right now. So uh, many times it's not being notified. But what we have seen in the hospital that we work here in São Paulo, that is the Albert Einstein Hospital, was an increase of the number of patients. We are right now with 74 patients, and some of them in the intensive care unit as well. Uh, but as I said, it didn't result so far in an increase of the number of deaths. So that's the story here. And back to the net control, A4FL, PY2BBQ.
Thank you for the report, Fulton. I'm sorry to hear there's an increase in the infectivity rates and hospitalizations, but carrying forth our discussion from last week, you had mentioned the environment for vaccination was very favorable in Brazil and very compliant. So I'm glad you have the protection against the mortality aspects of the disease. I have not actually seen statistics lately worldwide or nor here in the States as to what subvariants, if this is, well, we know what subvariants involved, whether or not this is a mutation of the subvariants. So, okay, just the science here, we certainly can read about it. But from a practical standpoint, I can tell you from my family that my children, well, my daughter and her family are positive right now. They're home isolating. We were exposed, and my wife and I were two boosted twice. My son was boosted once. Our grandson was with us for 2 days, and none of us came down with COVID. So there's somewhat protection. So it may be more effective, but obviously there's a possibility that it's not more virulent, which, as members of our group have explained before, is very common in viruses, and I'll leave that to others that are more knowledgeable than me to discuss that as we have the roundtable. Thank you, Elston. I'll let it drop one. So, Hilton, we're P12BBQ, AA4FL Friday. We're having a get together, our first social get together for Marco's Meal Contest entry in the Buffalo area. And if you look at the ether, it just came out on the Google list today. The distribution on the website. The information about its presence is on the Google list. But that particular meeting is in September, the end of September, and it's stressing, uh, focusing on the fact that our organization has, we all have spouses. We don't want to make our spouses widows to amateur radio, and we need to provide wholesome activities for them to feel proud about you being a member of our group, tolerance of you, at least guys or spouses, whether they're guys or gals, being members of Marco. So we're going to arrange for trips tonight to Niagara on the Lake Canada, the Finger Lakes, for the wine trails in Western New York. And similarly, we had spoken uh, Hilton and I about doing something in Brazil. Have you let it drop one? So obviously the Brazil trip would be very premature to discuss in any detail now, and as Hilton says he's looking at the next 2 years to determine best time. But Hilton, I mean, obviously the winter up here is the summer down there, so it might have an extra attraction for participating. As to whether or not there's contests that could be involved in the expedition like PY0F, I'll let you determine that. But I think from the standpoint of spouses, they'd be quite happy to just see the culture and the all those wonderful places that you're always visiting as potential places to visit. Because it seems that quite often on the net you're making a trip within an hour or two of your house to various destinations, sometimes on the beach, sometimes not, but in places that you enjoy. So we certainly be receptive to that and look forward to hearing about your thoughts. If we're recording this for YouTube today, we'll get our meeting on Google list group distribution and always let people know some of the things we're talking about in Marco DBNet. Back to you for just some final comments before we move on. VY2 BBQ AA4FL.
Okay. A4FL. This is PY2 BBQ returning. That's exactly uh, what we are talking about, Jay. First, regarding COVID-19 infections, yes, we had a great commitment on vaccination here, and certainly that's why we don't see uh, more severe cases of COVID-19 than we saw before. And regarding some future meetings, I was talking to you about Fernando de Noronha, POI0F country here in Brazil, an island in the northeast uh, south coast of Brazil, about 300 nautic miles from the state of Pernambuco. That would be a great place, and including for amateur radio operations. And the best timing to go there is the month of September. I'm not sure about the contests in September, but it's certainly the best timing to go there. We will need a lot to discuss a lot about it. Another interesting places would be in the Amazon area. There are some jungle hotels. To be honest, I've never been there. I'm planning to go there with my wife this year to a jungle hotel in a place called Anavilhanas in the Amazon jungle. I actually never been there. I think that would be the most interesting places for Marco amateur radios to go. Wait, one. Um, I don't see any interest in bringing you to the southern part of the country where we'll see big cities like Sao Paulo with 20 million people living here from many places of the world. Uh, not much different than what we see in the States or other countries in North America or Europe. I think what we have to offer best are those two places that I mentioned before. So there's a lot to discuss, and as you said, I think the best place to put this discussion is in the Marco Google email group that we have. So Thanks the opportunity and back to you. Another quick comment, Jay. Um, I saw that our colleague didn't manage to transmit the first and the third time that he tried. Uh, it was whiskey 9F. And what I'm doing some experiments here with QuadNet array during our net, and what I see is that there is sometimes more than 5 seconds delay between what I receive in the computer directly in the Blue DV for what I receive in my handheld radio, even when it's connected to the hotspot, or an even longer delay when it's connected to the local repeater. So I think we need to leave more time between the transmissions. Okay, so back to you, JA4FL PY2BBQ.
That's a very important point, Kelson. PY2 BBQ AA4FL. I just paused for a longer period of time. We'll try to make that a direction for the net to the description to pause as many as 5 seconds to give additional time for everything that we're doing as we do record as well to harmonize for the best thing possible. Because we really do want to share our 2 recordings on the Google List group. This is a resource that's underused, and the recordings extend that resource to those that have not become digital voice active. Speaking of ways of communicating, Srisendu is EU3WTJ is posting here in NetLogger that if there's anyone in Marco that does EME, person on Earth, if they could share the experience and the setup process with him. So, Srisendu, I don't know if anybody in our group has done it. I mean, I've done it to a mild extent. Using 6 meters, and you certainly need to have power and a lot of gain. There was one time where they did it out of the Air Hero stations, so some of the small stations had a chance to communicate with a high gain, high power station, and they still occasionally will have stations that do that. But for everyday experience, I think it's a little more serious endeavor. Why don't you put that question on the Google group list and see what responses we get there when the entire organization has a chance to chime in. This is AA4FL with the Medical Amateur Radio Council TV Naps. We meet weekly on Saturday mornings. Before, and we're open to guests as well as members to have join these discussion threads. You can tell they're varied discussion threads. You have a lot of time individuals here have a lot to offer. Are there any other, before we move on to the next person, are there any other late check-ins? Go ahead and make your call to AA4FL. Okay. No other check-ins. J3 on JT had emailed saying he wasn't going to be able to open that. I made it on the Google group. And he did mention that there was a problem with Fusion support now, or inclusion. I think he said Fusion. He refers to Google S. There will be a change in the status of the one that I don't know details. If any of you do chip you may, because you have multiple ways of 5RTF. When we get to you, I'll let you address that comment. Next on our list is N9OML, Howard in the Chicago area. Go ahead, Howard.
Good morning, Jay. Good morning, everybody on the net.
In the Chicago area, COVID activity remains high without a huge increase in mortality, pretty much same as previously reported, and there are 2 reported cases of suspected monkeypox. As to the MedShare program, I'm still learning, so I'm afraid I don't have a lot of information to contribute, but instead I'm listening right now, and when I have a better handle on things, if I have some sort of idea, I'll certainly put that forward. And then, no, back to net control.
Well, thank you, Howard. Now, Howard, you may not have managed your contributions right now, but you have a lot of experience working in the field. And I'm sure as the discussions expand on to what Medishare will be doing, you're going to have some very important contributions, knowing your background the way I do. Thank you for being here with us, but never be timid about making, offering up material. NHJJO, John, are you with us? Go ahead.
K0ATM. No, I'm just kind of listening here. I just got on here, so you guys continue. KA0WHR. I mean, not K0ATM. Sorry about that. We're clearing this thing.
K0ATM, thank you. We got you checked in here, and we'll go ahead and let one of our other members speak in the roundtable. And have any questions about what Marco, the Medical Records Radio Council does, or Project Medishare, or social activities, have any answers for the member who wanted to know about Earth and Earth, or any other topics, feel free to be part of the discussion. So let me turn it over to Chip first, though. M5RTF. Go ahead, Chip.
AA4FL of the group, N5RTF. I was listening when you were talking to our member from India, and from a historic standpoint, I don't know how many people remember Smitty, who originally started Medishare. Smitty grew up in India. His parents were Seventh-day Adventist missionaries, and he may have even been born there. So I think he'd be very proud if we were considering the project there. N5RTF.
Thank you very much for voicing that expression of support. I think it's a wonderful idea too, and I would hope, Sir Sanju, that you can participate, but expand Marco's presence in India. Maybe if we do have some projects that we're looking to do in India, it would expand our horizons. It's a very important part of the world, and right now, certainly the Indian subcontinent is amateur radio active, and to be part of an organization such as Marco would be a wonderful opportunity for us, and hopefully them and your group of friends. So thank you for being here, Susanto, and thank you for your input, Jeff and 5RTF, and thank you for everything you do for the organization. The newsletter we just sent out, the Marco newsletter, covered the annual session, so I was able to use a photograph of Chip, who zoomed in and attended the hybrid annual session, and a photograph of him is a link to the voice recording of that 2 hour, 9 minute annual session. So for those of you that were not able to participate that day, you certainly might enjoy listening to the video that's posted, streaming from our site. So you don't have to download it; you can just stream it. We already have plug-in on the WordPress site for you to be able to do that. Thanks to Dave, KTAP, our webmaster, Dave Lieberman, in California. I know Dave, you're not in it today, but kudos to you. Thank you. K0ATM. Joel, can we answer any questions for you? Go ahead.
No, not really. I just got on here. I was trying to get a hold of Mike WP XPT, but I guess I kind of come into something there. I'll just sit here and listen there. I'm kind of doing some things here and everything. So, but anyway, thank you. Anyway, I'll just sit here and listen, and that's it there. So back to you, AA4FL K0ATM.
Well, thank you, Joel. It didn't seem like that was asynchronous transmission, though. It sounded copy was excellent. I once talked to my brother-in-law, who was an engineer with British Telecom at ATM. And what it meant to him didn't mean the same thing as what it meant to us. And the banks there in the United States were very technical projects he was working on for British Telecom. That was his assignment. Well, thank you for everybody who's been through the round table one time through. I'll take a list now for those that might have comments, or if you have another discussion thread, I'll certainly go ahead and we'll take that list and we'll pursue it. So this is AA4FL, the Medical Radio Council Digital Voice Net. Are there any other further discussion or new threads? I'll make a list. Go ahead and give me a call. Well, no other discussion items heard. I would encourage those of you that have already started doing FT8. If you have 6-meter equipped radios, 6 meters has been very active, particularly from the middle of the United States in the mornings and the afternoons from the rest of the country in the evening. Come in, the benefits of FT8 are perfectly matched to 6 meters and sporadically the need for modes that support a lower signal strength, weaker signals. And as I said before the night started, I had his rooms down 3 times yesterday, last night, and was able to warm the Japanese station in Milan on 6 meters, only using 100 watts here. Of course, I do have a 6-meter beam up at 80 feet, that makes a difference, but you should have no troubles speaking domestically with a vertical or a dipole. So I encourage those of you to try FT8 in the farm. Kind of like going saltwater fishing without having any kind of a electronic aid. You never know what you're going to catch. This is AA4FL. I'll be having another meeting next week, having that next Saturday at 1500 UTC. Thank you to the Quanta Array for allowing us the technical ability to transcode, to have our different modalities that our members coming on, and we can understand each other in spite of the tower and travel. Thank you for everything the volunteers at the Quadnet Array do to keep the system up and running. And with that, I'm going to 7-3. Have a wonderful week. I will say on frequency or on the Quadnet Array, which I'm returning to general amateur use, but I will stay on if anyone would like to have a personal chat aside from the net. Bringing the net to a close, this is AA4FL, the Medical Amateur Radio Council, TV Net 7.